Hello, everybody. Michael Johnson with Shockwave Defense. Today we have Shane Hiatt with us. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. He's jumping on here shortly, and he is getting chrome on his brand new MacBook that he got. We're going to be running a course with Shane this coming Thursday. He's going to teach you how to get past limitation and how to get past excuses. Here is an individual who is very good at doing this. He spent some time on SEAL Team 8 as well as SEAL Team 3, and he'll be sharing with you momentarily once he jumps on how the mental component of that works. The mindset, as you guys know, as we focus on at Shockwave Defense, is one of the most powerful elements and attributes to make things work. Techniques don't save you in difficult times. It's your mindset and how you progress through and set that up in your head that's going to determine whether or not you're going to win or fail. And when Shane jumps on today, he's going to be talking about why people fail and how they allow their minds to get the best of them and how it starts to weaken their approach and their strength. So as he is uploading this onto his new computer, we have him via speakerphone right now, and we will just kind of start touching base with him briefly on his progression. Now, Shane, I know you're getting that downloaded onto your computer right now. How are we looking with that? It's a process.
Progress as far as technology goes.
Right.
I've got it downloaded now. Now I just got to figure out how to open the damn thing.
Okay. Now, and I will take the full blunt of this because I told Shane that we were going to test drive this earlier, and I had meeting after meeting, and I was meeting with another group earlier who apparently Mountain Standard Time and Pacific Standard, something got confused there. So they were like, we thought we had a meeting with you now. And I'm like, no, we don't. So we did a quick meeting there. Shane also makes all of our knives at Shockwave Defense, and he does them handmade. He's been making knives for quite a while now. Shane, what kind of...
Working into my 6th year.
6 years. Okay, so he's been making knives for 6 years. And the ones that we use at Shockwave, we love them because not only do the trainers that we use replicate the actual real knives, but they're both made out of metal. And one of the things that I learned when I went down to South Africa and got to train with Nigel, and I like to give him a shout out whenever we're talking about knives, because when you look at a system of knife fighting, and I've studied Lameco, La Costa, Eskrima, I've studied Kali, I've studied a bunch of different Filipino arts, and I think they're wonderful. I just think the most dangerous one I've ever studied is Piper. It's a stabbing system, and it's derived to eliminate a threat quickly. And so Piper's an amazing system. And one of the things that we did when we went out there is I sat down with Nigel and I said, look, I brought an aluminum training knife with me. And he goes, oh, hey, that's great. And he starts spinning it through his fingers and he looks at it and he says, wow, this is neat. And he kind of like tosses it over on a mat. He goes, this is what we're going to be using. And he pulls out a steak knife. And like this kitchen steak knife that he brought to our training session. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I hope this dude's good and he doesn't accidentally stab me for real. And I end up dying in Cape Town because I came out here trying a knife system, So he goes ahead and he says, turn around for a second. And as I turn around, he puts the aluminum knife and he has this other guy filming and he says, tell me when I'm holding the knife to your body. And I turn around and the aluminum knife, I can't tell anything because I can't feel anything. And then all of a sudden I feel this weird energy. And I'm like, now. And as soon as you put the real knife to my back, because there's iron in the blood, it affects differently with metal than it does with aluminum. That reality was the difference in our training. That was one of the many. So I love the fact that when Shane makes our knives, he's using realistic metal, or he's using real metal so that we're still being able to get that reality from the blade. Shane, you've been training knives and making knives, not training knives, but making knives for the last 6 years, and you've done it all over the country. I know that you're working on jumping onto our broadcast here, but you were just on a podcast recently, were you not?
I was the Mic Drop podcast.
The Mic Drop podcast, okay. And how many listeners? Your first time? Oh, your first.
It was my first podcast. It was the 50th episode of the Mic Drop, and if you haven't listened, I highly recommend it.
Okay, so and for those of you that just started joining us, Shane is joining us. He's just downloading Chrome right now to get on. So the Mic Drop, and what is the Mic Drop? Tell us a little bit about that.
So it was Team Guy buddy of mine, one of my best friends, started his own podcast. I think he's not quite 2 years in.
Okay.
And he did it as a response to his online dog training program. He was getting a ton of questions, and he needed another forum, another outlet. And he had met through his dog work a multitude of really unique personalities, law enforcement, government, news, etc. And he had, from a number of sources, been recommended that he should start a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So he kicked it off, and he's had some truly inequality interviews on the podcast. He's really good at what he does, and his interviews dive deep into a lot of different subject matter. His process and his interview style is very thorough.
Awesome. And what is his viewership typically like, Shane, when he's doing a mic drop podcast?
I think he's been consistently in the top 10 globally for podcasts.
Oh, wow.
I think he's getting somewhere between 200,000 and 400,000 downloads per.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. So you were just on with a huge viewership and people hearing about your knives. Awesome. Good for you.
Yep.
That rocks.
All right. Looks like we're on.
Okay. Go ahead and enter into the studio.
It's checking camera and mic. Hold on. It's checking camera and mic.
Okay.
Mic is working. Camera's working.
Good. Go ahead and enter on in, and I'll bring you in. There he is. Okay.
All right. I'm going to hang up the phone. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Hiatt. Shane, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
I think you just covered it. Shane Hiatt, former SEAL, not quite 20 years active duty. A little bit of time on both coasts, East Coast and West Coast. As Mike mentioned, did some time at Naval Special Warfare Center as an instructor, and got out in 2008. Started making knives in 2014 and have been at it pretty steady since. More of a hobby, and it's built. So because it's built, I've grown with it, and so now it's turning into more of an actual job.
Nice. And for those of you that are wanting to ask questions, as long as, just think about them and phrase them in a way that is useful and it's kind of concise, because we have limited time. We're only on from 12 to 12:30, and we already kind of got started late. But if you have any questions for Shane or myself, feel free to put them out there. Shane, today you're going to talk about why some people fail in the mindset and why it's so important inside of succeeding, not just in, say, combat or business and relationships, but why is the mindset so important, and how is it that you start to cultivate that mindset on a consistent basis?
So specifically, because of the turn of the new year, I wanted to touch on New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions, everybody, or the vast majority of people that I know, participate in that particular voodoo. I don't subscribe to it myself. There's a number of reasons, and I'll touch on a lot of them. The primary one being, in most cases, a New Year's resolution is something people have waited way too long to shift. And when they make the shift, they try to bite it. They bite off, quite frankly, more than they can chew. Whether it's a workout regimen where they haven't been working out for years and they decide they're going to go to the gym every day of the week, moving into the new year, there is no way in hell that's ever going to manifest, because physically your body will override your mental motivation. That said, the idea of the New Year's resolution stems from where, I don't know what the actual history of it is. It would be an interesting, maybe an interesting research process, but because it's the new year and everybody thinks that they're going to make a change going into the new year, and they've waited, they bite off more than they can chew. The problem isn't that they want to make a change. The problem is the mechanism with which they go about making a change. We discussed this some on the mic drop as well. If you're going to make a change, just make a change. Ideally, make it incrementally. The brain is a success mechanism, and I'll be talking about this in depth on Thursday as well for the class time. being that it's a success mechanism, if you put to succeed, you will. Hence the mindset verbology, if you will. Set your mind to a goal, and you allow your mind to move you in the direction to get to that goal.
So can we pause there for just a second?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, throw in wherever you want. I tend to ramble. So,
yeah, no, you're fine. Because I 100% agree with you. I think it's one of the reasons we get along. We share, like, there's a lot of things you and I have total disagreement on, and then other stuff that we really just kind of like meld on, you know, and I love it because I feel like we're sharpening each other. So on this, we definitely agree. And so when you set your mind to that goal, I think that's a phrase that people take for granted, and they don't understand how important that one phrase is, setting your mind to a goal. So can you go into...
I'll throw another verb in there, intent.
Okay. And what does that mean? When you set your mind to a goal, this is not a wishy-washy process, right?
Correct.
You don't sit down and
that's
go...
why I use the term intent. People say, well, I have this goal. All right. Well, do you have intent with the goal? I know, and we've had this conversation as far as weaponry goes, and you just mentioned it, talking me into the broadcast with what weapon is most effective. Well, it's the one that you intend to do harm with, hence the term intent. You can legislate, well, in theory, you can legislate away any potential harmful weapon, but you can't legislate against intent. It's not possible. Because of that, a Heinz 57 ketchup bottle made out of glass will cave a skull in. Intent being the mechanism there. And so when you talk about mindset and actually commitment to a goal, I think you're right. I think people have a wishy-washy attitude about how they go about that.
I think when they look at a goal also, what I've seen is a lot of people go, you know, I'd like to learn how to defend myself. Let me give it a try.
Right.
I'd like to get in better shape. Let me give it a try. When you're in a goal mindset, there is no try. It's like, I'm doing this or death, right? Like,
well, and I'm on board with the attempt if it's something that you don't know if you're going to be into. Your martial arts background, for example, I have zero desire to pursue martial arts as a pursuit. I just don't have that drive. Now, there's a lot of things that you know that I would like, and I know a lot of guys like you that have taught me the pieces of it that I truly want to know. And again, in the class on Thursday, I'll talk about this. The idea that you have to know your limitations. I'm not a huge tech guy, hence the delay in me getting in here. I don't care about it enough to want to apply myself to it. I know that I have to, because in today's day and age, for me to run a business successfully, I'm going to have to embrace it to a certain degree. But I'm lazy about it, and that's what we're talking about. That lack of desire leads to a lack of commitment, which leads to a lack of fulfillment.
But in your case, you have a desire and an intelligence enough and an intent to go, I'm not good at this. Let me hire someone who is.
And I recognize my shortcomings. So recognizing your strengths and your shortcomings is enormously empowering. And I think way too many people are afraid to embrace their shortcomings. They'll go out of their way to tell you about their strengths, but they will never acknowledge their shortcomings. And not acknowledging your shortcomings is 50% of a problem. You've got 50% of an equation, and you'll never get full tilt if you're not embracing the other half of you.
So a big part of that,
I hired somebody to manage all of my stuff, but it's not completely managed by somebody else. I still have to be involved as the sole proprietor.
Yeah. And I think what's important to understand is that a big part of that failure is based on ego, right? So when you sit down and...
Absolutely. There's no question that the whole dick measuring process, whether you're male or female, the application still, or the terminology still applies. There's too much pride involved in decision-making.
And everything that you want in success is on the other side of pride, really, you know, and I was having this conversation with someone earlier this week. You know, pride's cool, but you can't feed your family with it. And you can't, it's not going to.
There are the outliers. And here's one of the problems as well with our society. The outliers are the issue. You have these athletes that are truly immeasurable in amount of talent, and they found an outlet for that pride and that application. They have a mountain of weaknesses, but you never see them because they're applying their strength, which is so dominant in their personality, to their success. And that's the litmus that most, particularly this society, the American society, uses as their gauge for how they should pursue things. I know I'm good friends with a prior NFL football player. He happened to play for the Lions during Deion Sanders' time period. I don't care about football, but I like the conversation, like a lot of the conversations you and I have. And I asked him, I said, so what was the difference? Because he's a big athletic human being, 6'4", 250, 260, and good at most everything I've ever seen him attempt. I said, so what was it like being on the field or being in training with Deion Sanders? He said it was like we were two different species, truly. And I don't think a lot of people grasp the dramatic difference that exists between a guy that works his way onto a pro team and a guy that you see on the news all the time. But the litmus is, well, that guy does it, so I can do it too.
Right.
Well, you can't, because you don't have that talent. So, yeah, when you say that, most people are never going to feed their families with their pride. Some people will, and that's the ones that get the most coverage in this country.
I think the other side of that coin is you look at guys like Michael Jordan, who are he wasn't as talented, but he trained and trained and trained, and he admitted that, right? Correct. So him being able to go out there
he's also one of the rares, right?
Right. But it comes back to the
point. As far as admitting, yes, I wasn't as good as everybody else to get there.
Yeah, but he knew that, and that comes back to the point that you're talking about knowing your limitations. Because when you know your limitations or you know where your weaknesses are, you can then fortify those weaknesses and develop strategies to counter them, right? So your pride is really what gets in the way, and you've got to learn how to do that if you're going to meet any of the goals. So you said people say, "Hey, it's New Year's. I want to get into the gym. I'm going to work out every single day for 5 hours a day." It's not sustainable because it's not part of the habit that you have in your life.
I love that you use the term sustainable, because that falls into any dietary problem as well. If it's not sustainable, it's not long-term, it's a gimmick. And any gimmick will work with that. What was that last one?
I said the same thing happens in training, right?
Yeah.
People that go, I want to be a ninja. And they come into my school or anybody else's school, right? And they're like, I'm going to train and train and train, and I'm going to train 8 hours a day. And you're like, you have a problem. We're going to charge you,
right? And
if you're training 8 hours a day, when are you making your money, right? So in order to have an effective self-defense system, it has to be sustainable. This is one of the things that I liked about, and since we're talking about knives, that I liked about the Piper system. It's 9 moves, right? So when you're that's sustainable. You can train that every single day. It'll take you 5 minutes. Right. One of the things that we've done with Shockwave is we've made a very simplistic approach to our hand-to-hand combatives because it's sustainable. Right. If you've got to go and train like a pro athlete every single day, even when you look at the UFC fighters, amazing to watch, fun to watch, but is it sustainable long term, and will it last for the rest of their life? And I think that's the terminology of sustainability is really where we get in. And you've got to have, if it's not sustainable consistently, you need to be aware of that. That is a limitation, and you need to have a counter for that sustainability.
And you need to embrace the fact that it's not sustainable and get what you can out of it and move on.
Right.
And recognize that what you were trying, and I, again, pride weighs into that recognition of the fact that it's not sustainable. I've got another good friend that teaches Sirukan karate in Arizona. He's been doing it for 30 years. And he is truly, well, he says, and here again, humbleness. I believe he's a master of his craft. He says, yeah, I'm still learning. Which, it speaks volumes to his approach to life, and why he's as good as he is that he's still learning. He's not a master of his craft, but he taught for years women's self-defense classes, because there were a lot of women that thought they needed something specific to them. And I know you separate out because it helps with learning. And he was teaching, I think he said when he first started, he was teaching six moves. And he would revisit the course quarterly, biannual, annual. And he said invariably, even women that had come to the course on a very recurring basis, they could remember 1, 2, maybe 3 at most moves. So limiting that, unless it's your life, unless that's the only thing that you do, like yourself, then you're never going to be able to commit that because you've got too many other moving parts and it's just not realistic. So
especially under pressure.
Yeah. Well,
So
absolutely under pressure. And that's a whole other conversation.
Well, let's make that part of our conversation, because you went through budge training. You served in the SEALs for a long time. If somebody understands pressure, you understand pressure at a significant level that I think a lot of people don't. And I'm not trying to blow up your anything. I'm just being frank. I mean, it's a fact. You went and you did things that most people read about or, dream about doing because they saw some movie or whatever. Let's talk about pressure, because when you're dealing with goals and you want to get the mindset and you don't want to fail, you're going to have to be able to deal with pressure. So what are some tools that you learned through your endeavors on dealing with pressure that would allow somebody else who maybe is trying to make that New Year resolution, even if you don't subscribe to it, they do. How do they become successful at that? How do they deal with pressure?
We've already touched on it. It's commitment, it's intent, and ultimately it boils down to basics. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you understand the base mechanics will get you through the complicated moves. And I know that you understand that because you teach it. The mechanism, and part of the reason, and again, this will be really in depth. It's actually an entire slide. I think it's cool that you brought it up here because you still haven't seen my slideshow. Why are most it's stop sneaking in my shit. Why are most special forces units so successful at what they do? It's because of that repetition of the basics with increased stressors. And I know that you do a lot of very realistic training. You have the fist suits so that you can actually do legitimate contact work. And that is with the basics. That's what makes the difference between somebody who may know some stuff in a kata sense, I can do the moves, versus perform under pressure. It's the same with football. A pro football team doesn't practice the complicated shit. They practice the basics. A pro baseball team, same thing. A pro wrestler, UFC, they're not practicing the really complicated shit. They're practicing the base moves that get them into the complicated moves. And that repetition of the base is what allows for performance under pressure, but you still have to do the basics under pressure. You have to actually get the pressure applied in the basics to learn how to deal with that stressor. Nice. And as far as application now, I want to New Year's, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So as far as application to New Year's resolutions, my simplest advice would be to back away from the idea of the New Year's resolution and choose to change because you want to change, not because it's a time of the year or because your friend thought it was a good idea or because you read somewhere that this is the best time to make a shift. Make the shift because it's the right thing to do. If you make decisions for the right reasons and stay true to yourself, you're way more likely to follow through with those.
That being said, Shane, I want to toss in another aspect of that, is that if you really want to create a New Year's change or a goal, you have to understand that the way you've lived is why you've gotten what you've gotten. So Absolutely. If you continue to be the same way, you will continue to get the same thing. If you want to make a shift and if you want to make a change, you have to ask yourself a pretty simple question. Who do I have to become in order to get what I want? Right? And so if you wanting to be able to get in better shape is something that you claim that you want, but you want to have a steady diet of chocolate, sugar, and tacos, that's not going to work, right? So you're going to have to become something new altogether.
Yeah, that's probably not going to overlap well.
Right, exactly. So we have to have this level of consistency and also this level of, for lack of a better word, integrity that allows your behavior to understand that your behavior is going to equal a lifestyle. I meet a lot of people that go, I want to be a really successful guy that does seminars, and then they don't show up when people go to their seminars, or they end up taking people's money and screwing them over, or whatever it is. And I've seen this because I've been in this industry a long time, or people who, may say, hey, come on out and come and see me, and I'm going to be there, and then they're not there or whatever. So there's a level of integrity. Your action has to mirror what you say you want to do, right? And if you don't do that, no matter what you suggest or what you think you're going to suggest, it's not going to work in real time. Yeah, so I want to take a brief moment because we only go ahead.
So I was going to say I saw a really solid meme that reflects that well. It says, regardless what you say, your actions tell me what you are and who you are better than anything that comes out of your mouth.
Exactly.
You can say whatever you want, but if it's not reflective in the way you carry yourself or the way that you approach a problem, then it's obvious that it's a lot of lip service and not a lot of action.
Well, and we even talked about this last night in our Diligent Mind aspect of our class. And before I continue that thought, if you guys want to ask a question, do it quick, send it in the comments, because we only have 4 minutes left here with Shane. Okay. But one of the things that we talked about last night is a simple truth of, there's certain things that you build in your life, and they're nothing more than a mirror. Your business is a mirror of who you are. Your family ends up becoming a mirror of who you are. Your identity, if your business sucks, it's because something inside of you sucks. It's something you're out of alignment. You're not in integrity.
There's a soft spot. It's because you made it there, whether it was by intent or by neglect. Right. You caused it. Correct.
And when we look at tactics, and I know you're going to go into a lot of detail on this Thursday, for those of you that are coming down, which is a live event, by the way, for those of you coming down, although we probably will put something together where we're going to record it and then have it for sale down the road. But you guys should definitely get there to meet Shane. He's very knowledgeable. He's got a great amount of insight into the areas that he's talking about. And we've had him at Shockwave now. How many times have we brought you down, Shane? It's been a few, right?
A couple now. I think either 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And just for those of you that are kind of tuning in and you're kind of looking at it going, man, his internet connection sucks. We already had this discussion. Shane's not good at technology. So
well, the internet connection is not because I'm downstream and I'm on the east side of Albuquerque. I'm outside of the mountains, and the downstream flow here is shit. So if my internet connection sucks, that's not on me technically. That's on my location.
So that's not my technical advice. Right.
Out of my hands.
So for everybody that's going to be joining us this Thursday, Shane's going to go in a lot more detail on this. The time is this Thursday, and I think we're running it from what, Shane, 6:30 to 8 o'clock?
I think that's what you said. Yeah, 6:30 to 8 o'clock.
And we made it very affordable. This will be the one time that you can come down and really get access to this course for the price that we have it. After the recording, I'll go ahead and put it in the comments section below so that you guys can get access to it. Keep in mind that anything that you guys are looking to achieve in this new year, whether it's in your family or your personal life or your health, wealth, or whatever, relationships, it's going to start in your head first. And if you don't have that component down, it doesn't matter what behavior you think you're going to be in. If you're not consistent and sustainable in your mindset and the way that you achieve things and pushing through, then you're not going to be able to achieve it long term. Anything you want to add to that before we close out?
My goal Thursday is to cover on everything that you just mentioned and try to enable people to have a better psychology where it comes to self-change, self-analysis, and self-critique.
Awesome.
So hopefully I'll be able to enumerate that in great detail.
I'm looking forward to that, Shane, and I'll see you on Thursday. For those of you that tuned in, I hope you got a great amount of value just out of this so far. We look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday night. We're also starting our urban weapons defense course tomorrow evening on Wednesday. That'll be from 6 to 9 p.m. That'll cover everything from how to feed, fire, and function a shotgun pistol rifle. We're going to talk about some emergency trauma medicine with Dr. De La Garza. And we have another gentleman that's going to be coming down, since we're talking about the perfect storm here, who's going to show you how to do some lock picking and deal with if you get in a situation where you got to get out of somewhere and you don't have the key. How do you get out of a room? So if you guys have any, what's that?
Always explosives. That's always the answer.
For the rest of us that are not Navy SEALs, we don't have that option. He's all C4. That's the way we handle it.
A data sheet actually for locks. Data sheet works way better than C4.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. I'm sure I'm going to get banned on all my social media now.
None of this is proprietary information. Anybody that knows.
Okay. So, Shane, thanks for joining us today. Next week, for those of you that are going to be tuning in, we're going to be talking with a gentleman who does self-defense training down in Mexico. He's going to talk about how to identify a weapon on people, and he is pretty awesome. Oscar, I got to chat with him for a little bit the other day. And he's going to be covering how to identify a weapon, because they have a lot of weapon attacks inside of Mexico City. And he's going to be showing you some videos. I will tell you guys ahead of time that some of those videos will be disturbing. So if you do not want to see something disturbing, we'll warn you before we post the video or before we show that video. And then we'll give you guys some insight on how to counter those behaviors, because that's important. So look forward to seeing you guys next week. Shane, I look forward to seeing you this Thursday. Hope everybody enjoyed the broadcast. God bless you guys and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Mike.
So you're